Hey, good evening, class. Curtis here. And to be honest, I was a little confused at first why this course and the doc was sending us to so many databases. I even got cocky a little bit and I was like, I know research, I've been doing it for years. I don't need all these places. But man, I was wrong, especially about the Muse. The deeper I've gone in my research on the TED Offensive, the more I realize that every database has something different to offer. Some have books I couldn't find anywhere else. Some even have journal articles that change my assumptions, and others provide perspectives I haven't even considered. It has definitely made me a better researcher and reminded me to stay humble through this process. For this week's discussion, I explored both Oxford Scholarship Online and Project Muse to support my research on the TED Offensive and the credibility gap during the Vietnam War. My research focuses on how media coverage of the TED Offensive influenced public trust in the Johnson administration. Going into the project, I honestly thought I'd find a simple cause and effect relationship where television changed public opinion. The more I read, however, the more I realized the issue is more complicated and it just has layers. The credibility gap developed through the combination of military events, government messages, journalism, and how ordinary Americans just saw what they were seeing and what they were hearing. One of the strongest sources I read was James Wirt's The Offensive, Intelligence, Failure, and War. Kind of slow at first, but it got really good. It provided an excellent analysis of planning intelligence surrounding the offensive and helps explain why the attacks were such a shock to American leaders and the public. Another one that I also read was Inventing Vietnam, a War in Film and Television, which examines which movies and television shaped public memory of the war, even after it's been decades. This source really caught my attention because the research is centered on media and it reinforced the idea that stories people consume often shape what they remember and what they feel. Another valuable source came from Howard Jones' work on Vietnam, which discussed the growing disconnect between officials making statements and journalists and military observers reporting for the field, that credibility gap. Reading these works together to convince me that the Tet Offensive was not just a military event, but also a turning point in how Americans viewed the war and their own government. As both a history teacher and a doctoral student, this assignment also made me reflect on my own classroom. I spent a lot of time telling my seventh graders that history is about asking questions, evaluating evidence, and avoiding easy answers, which I tried to do in the beginning, right? In many ways, this research reminded me to practice what I preach. The more I dig into the more I dig into scholarship, the more I realize that history is messy and it kind of makes it interesting. Overall, Oxford Scholarship Online and Project Muse have incredibly valued have been incredibly valuable resources for my research, and it's started my kind of going in a different perspective as well too. It might even change some of my own personal opinions. I personally didn't think I needed another database in the beginning. I was dead wrong. But I finished realizing that multiple scholarly collections and strengthened my argument and expanded my understanding of the TED Offensive in ways I didn't expect. I hope you guys have a great night. God bless.